It wasn't long until we entered Louisiana and found ourselves on curving roads so unlike the straight highways of the Midwest. We drove past dozens of beautiful old plantation homes, of a kind that I had seen only in moving pictures. We were soon in the bayou country, dark with forests of pine and oak, of magnolia and cypress, all draped with shaggy hangings of moss, gray and forlorn looking. At a cafe where we stopped for lunch, we overheard some men speaking in a foreign tongue as they sat at the counter eating. "That's mixed up French," Lonnie told us. "Cajun talk. You hear a lot of it down in these parts." I began to feel a little scared. This was a world of warmth and softness, good to feel after the harsh winter we had just left, but it was an alien world of strange trees and marshes, of unfamiliar language. I suppose the carnival would seem alien, too, and I wondered how I would dare to ask for a job in a place so strange, and what was more than likely so unfriendly to a stray kid asking for a job that a dozen local kids may have been wanting. I heard over and over during the fall and early winter, "We've got kids here, too, you know. We have to look out for our own. We don't have enough for them, and tramp kids, too." To ask for a job was almost like begging. I hated for Lonnie to see me rejected and humiliated when I begged for work. Lonnie had to make several inquiries, but finally one evening we came upon it, the carnival we'd driven hundreds of miles to find. We found it lying before us in an open meadow only a few miles out of Baton Rouge. It was in full swing, bright with hundreds of colored light bulbs, noisy with the shouting of barkers and the laughter of children and the blaring music of a merry-go-round, which dominated the center of the scene. There was a Ferris wheel, too, with a few children strapped in the seats, and on a circular track there were a half a dozen little cars with a great cover of canvas falling in accordion folds over them to give the effect of a giant caterpillar. There were roulette wheels with cheap little prizes attached, chewing gum, candy bars, occasionally a quarter or a half a dollar. There were tents where barkers urged us to have our fortunes told. We were invited to see a bearded lady, a man with flippers instead of arms, a wild man from the jungles of Borneo. We passed shooting galleries and booths where the prizes for knocking down a sand-filled dummy were plaster dolls with enormous painted eyes, or net stockings filled with candy. A clown on high stilts staggered toward us and fell in front of Joey. People nearly laughed when Joey tried politely to help the fallen figure, and the clown suddenly sprang to his feet and pretended to trounce Joey as if my brother had been responsible for the fall. We shuffled through the curled wood shavings that covered the ground, inspecting and admiring everything around us. The whole scene made me remember when Dad had taken us to the amusement parks in Chicago long ago when I was little. The memory made me feel very lonely for a minute, but I fought away any such loneliness with a stubborn resolve not to remember anything good about Dad. After an hour or so, we finally found a tent with the name Pete Harris painted on a placard above the opening, on a placard above the opening. We went inside and found our man. He was a short, rather fat man, neither friendly nor unfriendly. He and Lonnie talked quietly together for a time while Joey and I waited at a distance, pretending to be interested in the people who passed by. Then Pete Harris called us over to his desk. He told us that the waitress who had given us his name was indeed his cousin. He seemed to like her. I got the impression that he wanted to help us as a favor to her. It was plain, though, that he was worried. "I don't know," he said, rubbing the back of his neck with a big handkerchief. "To tell you the truth, I just don't know how long this show is going to hang together. Times ain't good for having fun. People ain't letting go of their money anymore. Awful lot of people ain't got any money to let go of. I don't know whether I can afford to take on anybody more or not." Lonnie was sympathetic. "I know. Company I haul for is laying off more drivers every week. May feel the axe myself any time now. I know exactly how tight things are. Still, I wish you would at least hear the boy play. All of us in your cousin's cafe that night last week were kind of amazed at how he got music out of an old piano that was ready for the junk heap." Pete Harris kept on mopping his neck and frowning at me. Then he glanced at Joey and his face relaxed a little. "Hiya, sport," he said, and he put his arm around Joey's shoulder in the way that most people reacted to my brother. Then he turned to me again. "All right, come on. Won't cost me anything to hear you play a little. Far as a job goes, though, I just don't know." He led the way, and we followed him inside a tent where a piano was shoved in among chairs loaded with a lot of ruffly-looking dresses. A couple of chests with open boxes of powder and hairpins on top of them, and any number of battered suitcases and hat boxes. I glanced at Lonnie and saw that he was anxious. Pete Harris looked tired and skeptical. He motioned me to the piano as if he wanted to get the playing over and be rid of me quickly.